Hey, it's Logan, and I just wanted to make a little instruction video as to how to assemble this project I've been working on called the Contrib Cal. If you don't know what it is, it's like a physical GitHub contribution calendar, but it also includes like easily deployable self-hosted apps that are like one-clickable, deployable from the web interface. So we're going to be putting this together. So these are the main components that you're going to need. This isn't fully disassembled, but I didn't feel like, making an entire second one to show, but you'll get the point. So this is the brain of the whole operation, the Raspberry Pi 0W, and it needs to be the W because we need the Wi-Fi capabilities. So what we're essentially going to do is we're going to print out these parts. There's only two parts that need to be printed out. So the back case, which is this part, which will house the Pi 0 and a USB-C breakout board, which is technically optional. You could always just run a micro USB into here and then plug it into the power of the Pi, but so that'll need to be printed out, and then the front face. So this is basically where these LEDs are going to line up for the individual cells. So print that out as well, and this just happens to have some of the stuff installed, but we'll get into that later. And then you're going to need the PCB, which you can order off of PCBWay, or you can order off of me, however you get it. And then you'll need a USB-C breakout board, something like this, in order to power it. So let's just move some of these to get started. The first thing I would do is I would take the PCB and solder on all the LEDs, because this is going to be the most tedious step. So what I recommend doing is, if this is a soldering iron, I would tin the corner like this, and then I would get the LED and place it on the board across from it, and then heat up the solder to where it's melted, and then slide it into place, and then let go of the solder, and then let it cool for a second. Then you can do the other ones. That way it's flat and makes good contact and whatnot. And I would test it as you go, just to make sure it's working. But the orientation is shown in the schematic, but also here's like a assembled one. Not the world's best soldering skills, but as you see, the little corner is in the top left. So that's how you can know the orientation. I don't know if you're... Yeah, there. So after you have all of those soldered and make sure they're working, then you'll have something like this. And then the next thing I would do is I would get the Pi attached. So this one, like I said, is already assembled, but there's not that many wires to deal with. Some of these are extraneous that I was just using for testing. But so you're going to take the ground of the PCB, and you're going to go to the ground of the Pi here, which is this black cable, or the ground of the USB-C breakout. It doesn't matter, they're all ground. Then the 5 volt to the 5 volt of either, I recommend the Pi, and then the data in can be from your Pi to Pi on pin 18 or whatever you want it to be to the board. So that's how those are attached. And then the USB-C breakout is very simple to solder as well. You just take the 5 volt and then the ground, and you solder it to 5 volt and the ground of the Pi, and that'll power it. So you can use USB-C to power the whole thing. Hopefully that was an okay explanation. So then we have this little unit here, and we will have this back case, so we can start assembling this already. So I would put in the breakout board first. So it takes these screws, which are M2s, I believe, and this can be a little bit hard depending on how much length of wire you give yourself, but I'm just going to pop this in. Since these don't have heated inserts, I recommend just getting them snug. They don't need to be super tight, because the plastic, you don't want it to shred up. So that's in. And then next I would do the Pi, which is these M.2.5s. M2.5s, I mean. And then the same thing. All right, now we can see that that is all screwed in. Everything looks pretty good. All right, and you will probably want to make sure that you have the software ready to go for it before this, or at least the Wi-Fi configured so you can remote access the Pi through SSH or something. So then we will set this aside for now, and we can take a look at the front face. So the front face only has two things you need to do to it. So it has 4 M3 heated inserts that you can put in with the soldering iron. It is a little shallow, so I just recommend being careful. I started off by just putting them in like this lightly, and then use the side of the soldering iron to heat up the brass, and then press it flush with something that's not hot, like a screwdriver or something. And then the screen is just a piece of paper on this one, for example, but it can be like a piece of plastic with a sheet like a piece of paper on top of it. You can kind of do whatever you want with this, but piece of paper is the simplest option there. And in order to cut that out perfectly, I include this 3D printed part where you can just take a razor blade and put this on a piece of paper and cut the inside out, and that should fit that. You may need to do a little bit of trimming, but and then this is a little bit weird, but I would recommend using a glue stick to attach the paper to the plastic. That's because if you use something like super glue, it'll leave like a residue between the two. It'll soak into the paper, and then you'll be able to see it when the lights are shining through it. And the glue stick works quite well, actually. So now that you have these two parts fully assembled, you just need to assemble the halves. So you'll just take this part and screw the PCB into the face. So it'll go like this, and these screws you need to be particularly delicate with because they are so small that it can rip the threads pretty easily in the plastic. So it really does not need much force at all. Okay, so now we have the PCB screwed in to the face, and now we just do the final screwing in. So take these M3 by, I think they're M3 by 12s, and just screw it in. And then just like that, you have it all assembled. And then I would just, plug it in and test it and flash it with the firmware. And I can show you how to do that, so we can move on to that step. Okay, so I wanted to show you how to get the software set up on the device now. I have mine already set up, but I can still show you the process. So you're going to want to SSH into it from any SSH terminal, whatever. So this is, for my specific IP address, and then the username I'm using, which I recommend you use the same because it's easy. And I didn't have to enter in a password because I copied over the SSH key, but then you just enter in the password, whichever you made it, or the default that I've put as Raspberry, because that's what Raspberry Pi uses. So now I would go over to my GitHub for this project and go look at the getting started guide, which is right here. So this is for going through all of the steps, step by step, if you don't want to watch the video or you don't have any experience just getting a Pi working and connected to the internet. But if you want to skip some steps, you can just run, we just SSH, so we can just run to this part where we are curling my shell script and then piping it into SH so it runs automatically. Yes, I know this is a little controversial, piping into SH. If you're really that worried about it, which I recommend you do be, because it's good, you can take a look at what it does. Nonetheless, you can just copy this command and run it in here. So I'm going to exit out of that because I don't need it to run, but while this runs, you'll be prompted a couple of times, specifically during the install of Pi-hole, and then just choose the defaults that make sense. And then after that, you can either exit out of the terminal and SSH back in, or you can run this command, which sources the bash RC that's been updated by my setup. And then you should see something here with the CCal service status. So depending on your defaults, these probably won't be enabled, but you can go ahead and enable that in the GUI. So the GUI is easy to get to. As you can see here, it has the management UI, so you can just simply copy that and then visit that, enter in the defaults, password, username, and then you are into the management interface. So yeah, then you can get everything set up. All the links you need to, you know, find these tokens and whatnot are included here, and you just fill this out. You can decide if you want your add-ons on, and then you just click save settings. So that's pretty much it. And then you can source again if you want to, and then should pop up with all of this information. So it'll help you get tail scale and everything running and accessing it as you need to. I do want to make a little note of the sync thing, because they don't allow external IPs to access it by default, so you need to use this command to access it on your machine so you can access it on a local host. Then you can update the settings. Okay, well, that should be it. Thanks.